We're taking Tacky Talk on the road today and really far on the road with State Representative Tacky Chan, who is in Austin, Texas. Tacky?
Yes, Joe, good to see you from Austin, Texas. It's about 74 degrees and cloudy. I'm sure some people are very jealous about the fact it's a little warmer here, where I feel like it's 90. So I'm in Austin, Texas for a conference called TechNet. It's composed of 100 of the largest technology companies in the United States. And I'm here to listen in on experts on panels ranging from autonomous vehicles to responsibility of artificial intelligence and new technologies in healthcare and economic development and education. So it's a full day conference. I got here late last night, Wednesday night. I came in very late. So I'm a little exhausted actually. And got up very early and walked from the hotel to actually Google headquarters in Austin.
Wow, well, I mean, Austin is the capital of Texas. Maybe people don't realize that, so it makes sense. I guess they'd hold it there.
Well, last year was in Atlanta, which was also very good. So it encouraged me to want to come back to this conference as much as some folks, kind of like, why you go here and there. Well, the conferences, you have to go to the conferences. Conferences don't always come to you. And it's also a unique opportunity to get a lot of experts in the room. And also, there's about another 25 to 30 legislators in the room next door, which I just stepped out in. That we can talk over dinner and drink sort of later on about what they're doing on consumer data, data privacy, their AI task force, with our autonomous vehicles, grid electrification, and so forth. I did an EV conference, electrical vehicle conference, back in October. Got a really good overview from other states and where they are on electric vehicles and grid modernization. When there's a chance and it seems relevant to topics I work on as committee chair, it's always a good thing to try to get to as much as I can when I can. And in case you all wondering, I mean, I am paying for this one myself. I'm not taking any gifts, but I do have to do a whole reimbursement to TechNet, which is a bit of paperwork, but not a lot of paperwork. But I have to write back a reimbursement later. So, but hey, I mean, that's what you got to do. And tomorrow, there's a continuation of breakfast meetings, and then there's actually a treat. We're going to go do a private tour of the Texas State Legislature. As you pointed out, it is the capital, and I'll be flying back home tomorrow evening, just in time for Veterans Day parade the Saturday morning.
Well, I'm guessing the reason you got there so late is because you were working at the Massachusetts State House so late, right, with the vote on on the governor's supplemental budget.
Yeah, it's a weird sup. I mean, it's a reconciliation budget, so that fiscal year 23 numbers finally permanently came in after the October tax returns, especially, and we are, we had a little bit of a shortfall, but not so badly that we couldn't adjust FY 23 money around. Large part of it was capital gains. I kept talking about over and over again. Cap gains is not part of the baseline budget. It is going to stabilization fund, rainy day fund. So it really doesn't no impact on FY 23 spending or any shortfalls may occur. Plus, the governor had over $500 million reversions, that were unspent money. So, we have to reauthorize, or we use that to plug some other holes, which we essentially did. The additional funding we provided, we did several things. One, we did collective bargaining agreements for public employees, which we should have done last year. Is actually baked into the FY 24 budget. It's not like new funding in the sense that we didn't expect it coming. We already knew the numbers. We just had to authorize it. So it's a supplemental, yeah, but no. It's kind of one of those funky situations.
You already spent the money, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, spent but unauthorized.
Okay.
Is that, it's because we put into the budget doesn't mean we authorized to spend it. So we create the authorization. And then, some other backfill accounts or things like elections. We had a special election in Senator Gobi's district, Fitchburg to Worcester, Spencer, that part of the state, and some other odds and ends on bill paying. But the lion's share, as you point out, $6 million the governor asked for from one time of us going through the what do we call it? 2021, we created a rotating account where surplus money has gone in and out of there over years, and was created during COVID when we didn't expect to have a surplus because we were expecting like a 20% shortfall. So as a result, there's still some money left in there. There's some money you can move from different trust funds in and out of that account for one-time appropriation. But you can imagine we're very frustrated in the legislature with the governor's office, not just myself, but all my other colleagues. especially colleagues who have a major impact from migrants in their communities where they're taking in as many as 10 to 20% more students. If you're a small community, you add like 20 kids to that system, that's a lot. If you're a small community, and if you're a regional school, all the if obviously Quincy is not a regional school, but if you're a regional school, you have to put in a share of the cost for the high school, for the middle school as a regional school. So, this was a big deal, problem, because the government didn't have solutions. And Speaker Mariano and Chair Merkowitz and Leader Peisch, and Leader Peisch in particular took the lead on behalf of the Speaker's office in the House to talk to the governor's folks, and still not getting great responses, to be frank with you. We understand this is an emergency that was unexpected. However, at this stage, we hope to have a plan and better utilization of resources. So the money is actually divided up that where we don't just give you a blank check, so to speak. $50 million goes directly to shelter programs. Winter is coming. Shelters are maxed out. People don't realize shelters are almost always maxed out in the greater Boston area. Put some money directly into healthcare assistance, right? Again, immunizations are very important. I know people have mixed opinions, but these are folks that coming from other places do not have equal healthcare systems as ours. But there's also prenatal care. There are a lot of pregnant women coming too, with small children. And they also have money set aside for, as I talked about earlier, for school systems, particularly that are very heavily impacted, where they will get the Chapter 70 formula calculation per pupil, so they're consistently going to be made whole as they try to handle this influx. And we also make sure that there's food programs and other human service programs attached to it. So it isn't as simple as $250 for shelter money for hotels. We want monthly reports. We want regular reporting from the governor as a condition for these funds. And as you can hear, we're looking at a holistic approach. A lot of us are based in our communities of various kinds, and some of us communities are much more human services, like Quincy. Some communities, like Wellesley, is not. And there is a resource drain on communities that do provide services like Quincy does, who has to now go to places like Wellesley to provide services which they historically don't need.
Right.
And how they distribute these funds and whatnot. I mean, we want to know how they're going to do it. And, we want to have better coordination on who's leading what. And this is kind of part of the situation we're facing.
Yeah, as I understand, also there's a requirement attached that an overflow shelter location be identified soon.
Yeah, that's part of the $50 million component. We want to have something there. And the frustration has been expressed by members is that, we keep providing locations like Mount Ida has been brought up by the Newton delegation. For whatever reason, the administration is unable to come to some deal with Mount Ida, which none of us can understand. I do understand that gobbling up some of the UMass systems, open buildings like conference rooms and whatnot. But, we also have National Guard armories that are, well, we mean at the Quincy one, that's ancient. But, there are other armories around the state that can be converted into temporary shelters, right? The legislative delegations do know where there's open property. They can work with local government, or, there are state-owned that, that we could put new shelters. Quincy is not one of those places you all know. I mean, Quincy does not have a lot of open spaces. But you'd be surprised, as you talk to our colleagues in the legislature, they're aware of a lot of, I wouldn't say abandoned, but underutilized.
Yeah. Yeah, the speaker mentioned also the Heinz Convention Center. I don't know how the rep from that district feels about that, but that could be a possibility.
Well, we don't have sympathy for Boston folks in Quincy on certain things.
Oh, really? Something to do with a bridge, perhaps?
Not my problem, of course.
Right.
It's it's Bruce's issue, but you can grill Bruce about that some more on the next encounter. But yeah, I mean, to us it's a shared cost, and we all know Boston receives the lion's share of the state resources. It is 50% of the GDP of the state, and close to 45%, well, basically 50% of New England. So we're very respectful, understanding the port of Boston. But at the same time, though, you gotta take up more share as opposed to dispersing your problem to other communities. But the migrant issue is unique. It's not the standard mass and cash or homeless issues that occur in Boston. This is a uniquely statewide problem. The governor, the judge, Supreme Court judge had, ruled that that we can cap it under the fact the legislature does not provide more of money, the law can't be complied with and the governor isn't able to execute. So,
Yeah.
That's correct ruling because we don't provide resources and there's no other way to acquire resources. The executive branch can't execute what the legislature intends.
Right. Yeah. I know that there'll be a work authorization clinic coming up soon with the Department of Homeland Security, because that ultimately that's the goal, right? Is get folks out of shelter and into productive lives.
Well, agreed. And what's also very important to keep in mind is that, this is a humanitarian crisis. Again, I said this over and over again. I mean, they're looking for border safety. This is not a safety issue. It is a humanitarian crisis. You go to look at other countries around the world, how they treat this thing, they're all treated as a humanitarian issue. We're looking at one right now in the Middle East. We're looking at one in Ukraine. We're looking at one in Myanmar. I mean, neighboring countries, yeah, it's a security matter to keep conflicts from overflowing into their country, but when people come over the border, it's treated as a humanitarian crisis. So, I mean, the federal government does a really crappy job at this. I mean, let's call it what it is. They do a crappy job. And even the spending package that got down in DC that's all gummed up in the House of Representatives regarding, Ukraine and Israeli assistance monies, includes $1.4 billion ish, give or take, for state assistance on the migrant issue. That is chump change.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, folks, chump change. Your federal delegation has no understanding what's going on in their states. Not just Massachusetts. This is a national state for all 50 states, well, not Alaska, Hawaii, but the 48 continental states, are facing pretty much the same thing we're facing at different levels.
Yeah.
And there's such a disconnect with the federal delegation and their local state delegations. It is quite astounding and very disturbing.
What's going on? Are they too busy infighting that they're not paying attention to their constituency, do you think?
Well, I've talked about this before. I operate in the theory that if the further away from home, the harder it is to stay in touch. So you don't see the direct impact. You don't have to deal with the direct issues that we as legislators and city councilors and selectmen and mayors and city managers and town managers and school committee members, all have to face. When you have a local issue, it comes up in our doorstep, we have to deal with it. Federal delegation folks don't actually have to engage those local issues, right? And that's part of it as well. So, it's like passing the buck problem, but we didn't create the problem. I mean, the Fed's poor policy on what should be a humanitarian crisis, again, should have had a coordinated response from the federal government. As you said, the workforce job visa permitting thing they're going to put out. That should have been done, as a beginning process of a larger plan of how to handle a humanitarian issue, as opposed to treating this as a border security issue.
Mm-hmm.
You're letting them in. It stops being a border issue if you let them in with visas.
Right. Yeah, I know that there's concern that the 250 million is just a kind of a stopgap band-aid. It won't cover the entire cost.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm going to lie to y'all. It is exactly what that is. I mean, we put $310 million in shelter program already. That wasn't just a migrant issue. We had been anticipating some kind of economic shift in Massachusetts anyway, because the economy's run too hot, and we talked about the unemployment issue being extremely low still. But there's still everyone's being squeezed. I mean, this holiday season is you're going to see inflationary costs. So, not surprising. We put a little extra money to human services in general, FY24 budget. I'm sorry, yeah, FY24 budget in anticipation of a potential and most likely will be coming impact on families regarding everything from housing to food. And, I do anticipate increased usage of our SNAP program as families are being pinched.
Right. And that was before the migrant crisis.
Yeah. And I was talking to a reporter friend, which will not name. I do have friends in the media. And that's beyond you, Joe. I love you, but I have other friends too. And pointed out to me that of the migrant situation, the media has been informed that about 50% of the migrants are not, 50% of the shelter recipients are not migrants.
Okay. Interesting.
That means we got to, that means that initially I heard it was 1/3. It's jumped to 1/2, which means that we are having a domestic problem here as well regarding shelter assistance and housing. I get constituent calls on a regular basis. So, folks, keep in mind that, the migrant is a huge issue. It is. But the fact, the media reports are being informed, whether they report it's another matter. But I mean, they're being informing folks that, they're looking at about 50% of the migrant of the so-called housing shelter problem is not all migrant driven. It is, locally driven too.
Yes, yes. So basically half the people were already in Massachusetts, already residents in Massachusetts, and now they're facing this issue.
Yeah, and it's compounding. And I remind folks again, you can't get a Section 8 or MSRVP or be in public housing if you're not a U.S. citizen or permanent resident.
Mhm.
So, the migrants are on visas, like a lot of emergency visas. They don't qualify for any type of public housing and housing vouchers. So that
Yeah.
actually also compounds it as well, because there's no way to get a permanent housing through a subsidy program. It doesn't exist. So once you put them to work, now you still have the standard housing crisis we have that all of us are facing at the local level.
That the cost of living is exorbitant, right? Exactly. Even for folks who are working full time or more than full time.
Yeah, I saw a report from one of those payroll companies on the news. It's not ADP, I think it's one of the other ones, and they reported that there's still like 1.5 job openings per person nationally,
Mhm.
on that level, which is astounding. It's about 1.5 jobs available for every person on a national level. That's a lot of openings with not enough people.
Right.
But also noting that as a result of that, more people are doing more than one job. So these
Yes.
payroll companies, are can get your data because they have to pay. They pay you direct deposit or by check, and they sync up to your numbers on Social Security. So all your payroll and FICA and that stuff's all taken out properly under taxes and whatnot. And they're seeing more and more people who have more than one job.
Yeah, not surprising. Not surprising. Just trying to make ends meet for sure. Um, can we talk a little bit? I know we're limited on time today, Taki, but the effort to unionize app-based drivers. I know there was a rally at the State House just recently.
Yeah, there's been two conflicts here. So there's a group of union guys, BJ, I think it's BJ 52, and I think one of the SEIU unions. It's been a little while. We're looking to put on a ballot question, creating a unionization of gig workers, which is a little confusing. You talk about just gig or just Uber app rideshare drivers, right? And then the AFL-CIO has not endorsed this ballot initiative.
Oh.
So while it is being perceived as a union issue, not the national, Mr. Statewide AFL has not endorsed it, and not all the locals are on board on this matter. So there's a bit of a messaging issue that is being perceived as being a strictly union issue. It is not strictly a union issue. It's a segment of the existing unions. And it's a little complex because they're trying to become employees, collective bargaining, but maintain independent contractor status. They want benefits, but don't want to be told what to do. And it is one of those unique jobs, this ride sharing, where the employee dictates when they want to work. Unlike other contracting jobs where you have to have a delivery, you have to have a outcome. So if you contract me to build your porch, you want it done by X period of time and X condition in X dollars.
Yeah, and that's all contractual. It's all in writing, right?
That isn't the case of app drivers. Rideshare drivers, while there's a lot of control by the rideshare company, Uber, Lyft, and so forth, the employee actually has a lot of that they could do too. There's no like, you have to work X hours. I'm expecting X number of hours out of you. I'm expecting X number of dollars out of you. I'm expecting X number of rides out of you. It's really kind of a unique situation where it's not a typical contract that we all work under. We understand contracts collectively. All of us have a basic understanding of how it works. But ride sharing is kind of curious because it's not a conventional contract between the employer and the employee, because not employer, it's a contractee. But a contractee has enormous say on the outcomes of the job they're performing, which is dependent on the riders giving the employees, how do I put this? The outcome of the contractee, the driver, is 100% dependent on the rider's ratings. So other than complaints made to the rideshare company, the outcome of the rating star you give dictates whether or not the contractee can continue to work for the contractor.
Right. Yeah. So the driver really is working for the passenger more than anything.
That's correct. It's a very strange relationship that is very unique to this type of circumstance. I mean, other one could be similar as delivery services, but
Mhm, mhm,
could be similar enough. But rideshare, when you think of the economic model all the way through, a lot of control by the contractee
mhm.
to dictate when, where, and how often and how much money to make. Contractor does not dictate those terms. They just collect their share of the action. Unless there's a direct complaint to the contractor, the recipient of the benefit, meaning the passengers, the ridees,
Mhm.
dictate the performance of the contractee to the contractor, which the contractor determines whether the contractee should continue to work for them.
Yeah, I see. So interesting. Yeah, almost a rider and the driver have a contract themselves, basically.
Correct. When you have a Uber driver, there's a contract term. So where Uber, Lyft, or other ride service, you have a contractual term for point to point B. The
Mhm.
dollar's been set. Your expectations get there with the dollar made. We passed laws in Massachusetts and many states regarding, how to handle surge pricing, how to handle, make sure that the number on your screen is what you're guaranteed to get. So there's no, bait and switch
Mhm.
situations, and also regarding insurance coverage. So there's a lot of that going on. So uh, it's like I said, this is a very complicated issue. People oversimplifying this as like big bad company versus poor drivers, and a lot of drivers don't want to be also subject to a collective bargaining agreement either, because
Mhm.
now it sets up terms they have to meet as
Right.
opposed to setting their own terms of how they want to run essentially a small business.
Yeah, that was part of the attraction of that app-based or driver-based technology to begin with. It's like, oh, I can use my own vehicle. I can do this whenever I want. It's kind of a side hustle, as they say.
And that's correct, right? You can try to do this 60 hours a week, and you have this enormous flexibility to be at your family obligations, and you can work, strange hours in the middle of the night, to meet those family obligations, or you can do this as an extra 20-hour week job in between, a regular 9 to 5 job.
Interesting. Okay.
And it's
So,
contracted, so you're responsible for your taxes, your FICA. You
mhm.
can you can create an expense account, you can create a personal corporation, you create everything in your Schedule C. I mean, there's that there's that part too where
Yeah.
you could, basically run your little business.
Yeah, they are they given 1099s from the companies, do you know?
Yeah, they have to have some kind of 1099 because they're contractors.
Right, right. Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, we'll see where that goes. Speaking of while we're talking about driving, talk about the bill being a lot bantied about red light camera enforcement.
Yeah, we talked about this last time. Some
Yeah.
states have, red light camera enforcement where they can take a picture of your plate and cross a red light, they can take that down and um send it to law enforcement to come get you. This is not the state of Massachusetts. If you look around Quincy Center carefully, you can find actually traffic cameras.
Yeah.
They're mostly used for security reasons. I mean, the
Yes.
crime commits, there's an accident. You can use it to check weather conditions live, for example, the snow, whatnot. But there are cameras already in Quincy in the new Quincy Center. And again, they're not for traffic enforcement. There's a bill out there to do a pilot program to allow up to 10 communities of 2,500 people or greater to allow to have one camera per 25,000 people. It's a pilot. It's not a new idea. It's been around for quite a few years. Um, but it's a lot of, whether or not you want to make the financial investment. We're not giving you money. So, that's actually part of the reason why this bill isn't moving very quickly.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, nobody wants to pay
I
for it.
no one wants to pay for it. So I'm not anticipating this bill to have a whole lot of eagerness from municipalities because again, you got to wire cameras. I mean, it's not like this is New England. Cameras get beat up.
Right.
So, there's that proposal out there. Again, it's a pilot. And my hopefully gets through. I'm not that I'm not that optimistic. Unless there's a way to give municipalities money, I'm not super optimistic it's going to go fast.
Yeah.
But again, it's not a terrible idea. Something to banter about. I'm sure conversations will continue in a minute.
Yeah. Big news today, you probably may have heard, or maybe not, I don't know. The MBTA is hoping to eliminate all speed restrictions on the subway system by the end of next year.
Okay, well, we'll believe it when we see it, folks.
That's according to the GM just this morning.
The challenge of the T is every time to make one step forwards, there's always 2 step backwards. And I'm not blaming this GM. The GM inherited this problem from the prior administration. And to be honest, probably from two prior administrations now. 16 years of two governors that really did not have a clue about public transportation. I'll be honest with you. It's easy to talk through them. People would actually leave, but I've been observing this stuff for a long time, and the choice of management has not been great. And again, Phil Ing is a guy that is an engineer. He's a legit like rail engineer, and that's what we need, an operations person that knows how to run a system and actually save the system in Long Island City from basic collapse. So again, not envious of the position, very understanding, but it is, even though he didn't create the problem, it is his problem. So let's see if they can pull this off. We had hoped the orange line would be all set and the green line, and the green line, ties were a problem. And I know it's been slow and arduous and painful for everybody on the red line. But we have technology today that wasn't there 50 years ago to ensure rail safety that didn't exist today. That exists today didn't exist then, which is also a part of it as well. So, again, they lay the rail, they check the rail, they ultrasound the rail, they run the trains on the rail slowly, as you all sadly know. They come back and check the rail again to make sure that it's okay after the trains run through. Then the rail you have to go back over for a week slowly again. You got to go check the rail again to make sure that the settling is correct and there's no problem. That's the level of safety they're using at the MBTA. Now, if anyone would like to propose they don't check those rails after every time the train goes through for a week to make sure settlement occurs, I would like to hear from you and tell me why it's okay not to do that. But this is not like 1950 where, for the love of Pete, none of that technology existed. And I didn't even know, what did he do back then? Were they eyeballed the stuff in the middle of the night?
They prayed a lot, I think.
Yeah, I mean, people have this perception of rail laying, like they watch, these movies of, 1880 rail laying, the Intercontinental Railroad. And it's not like that anymore, where you just, take a ruler and you figured, close enough.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's a process now for sure. I know you want to get back to your conference there in Austin, Tacky, and probably get some good barbecue too. So,
Well, let's hope I can eat something. Those who know how my food allergies are quite immense. So let's see if I can have some local cuisine somehow. But yeah, no, it's a good chance to do this. I'm hoping there'll be other opportunities, probably after the session ends next year, to do some more conferences. I mean, it's hard to do it during the session, to point out, you're running through a session and you got to jump on a plane right away and get here really late and a little drowsy, and try to pay attention today. But I'm very thankful for the invitation for me to come and engage a lot of folks. And hopefully maybe we'll do a few more of these podcasts remotely, since we can be anywhere. Maybe we'll grab one when I'm on a legit vacation at some point. I can show you the sites
yeah, that'd be
someday.
fun. Tacky on the beach. Well, no, you wouldn't be on the beach. You don't like the beach, but yeah, something fun. Okay, we'll look forward to that.
Well, we do remote tacky vacation tour with Joe for y'all. So she'll actually do take vacations every so often.
Where's Tacky? Where's Joe? That'll be a whole new series. Okay. Contact time.
Yep, the office is open, room 42 at the State House, 617-722-2370. 617-722-2370. You can email me at tackey.chan@mahouse.gov, tacky.chan@mahouse.gov. My email box is much more manageable these days, so I am actually seeing things much more easily right now. We have a legislation website, malegislature.gov. You can look up the bills on your own, watch the public hearings and sessions. You can reach out at, well, don't reach out. Please don't do this on your social media. But I mean, I do have this State Representative Tacky Chan. You can see pictures of what's going on. I believe we're going to have pictures up from the OTA choir, OTA High School choir that visited the State House actually on Wednesday as well. They sang the Grand Staircase. So we'll have some pictures there of us saying hi to these kids from Japan, for example. And then we also have tackychan.org as a reference guide for people looking for phone numbers. And of course, X at Tacky Chan is available as well. But again, I discourage heavily social media contacting me. Definitely call the office and email directly. because there's just too many ways to keep track. And people don't seem to understand we get bombarded from like 9 directions. And you actually start to lose where things are. And people don't give us phone numbers and emails even. They just like give us stuff and like I can't find you again. So please give us at least your phone number.
Okay, sounds good. And then malegislature.gov, right, for the legislature.
Yeah, I mean you can look up you can look up bills, you can see status of bill reports. And again, you can watch public hearings. As you know, I chair consumer protection professional licensure. You go to the events and hearings, you can watch how I work, as well as the other members of the legislature. And of course, you can watch the sessions and debates. But it's a great resource. I really encourage people to do it. There's like a whole thing to make your own account just for yourself. And then you log in and you have like a whole thing you're monitoring. And, it's a great way for people to access information without having to call them.
Okay, well, thanks for taking some time out to talk with us, Tacky, and we'll let you get back to your conference. We'll see you back here in Quincy.
I'll see you back soon. Thank you, Joe.